Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners issues and updates on this April 23rd, 2024. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, you can kick it off.
Thank you, Chair Smith. All commissioners are present. Joining online is Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Schrader, are you there?
Here.
Very good, thank you. And the other commissioners are in the room. First, Chair, would you please convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County?
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
You're now meeting as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County Board of Directors. Joining you online is Housing Resident Commissioner Ann Leenstra. We'll wait just a moment for Commissioner Leenstra. Are you there, Commissioner?
Good morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Leenstra. Welcome. This is request for consent agenda for the Housing Authority. First, item 1, approval of a construction contract with A1 Quality Construction for public housing flooring repair and replacement as needed. Contract value not to exceed $250,000 over 2 years. Funding through the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development Capital Grant Funds. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Tony Carter, Executive Director of the Housing Authority. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. As you can imagine, the Housing Authority must maintain its current public housing portfolio up to HUD standards or guidelines while providing public housing, as stringent inspections are required for units to achieve high performer status. Services include restoring the flooring to its original condition, improving efficiency, removing safety hazards, and achieving the Housing Authority's high performance status.
Commissioner West.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Is this, am I right in reading this, that this is, are these are scattered sites? There says there's 34 units, or is this, what kind of property are we working on here?
These are individual homes that we own in public housing.
Okay, perfect. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval of a construction contract with Greater Purpose Construction for public housing roof repair and replacement. Total contract value is $187,550 for 120 days. Funding is through the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development Capital Grant Funds. No county general funds are involved.
This is similar to the issue we just talked about, but the Greater Purpose Construction was selected through a competitive bidding process and is for replacing the roof of 15 units and repairing the roof of 2 units in the scattered site portfolio. The project will involve repairing roofing, insulation, dry rot, attic ducting, and exhaust fans, restoring roofing to its original condition, improving efficiency, and achieving high performance status.
Any questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 3, approval to apply for a Resilience Hubs and Networks grant from the Oregon Department of Human Services to support a resiliency hub at the Hillside Park redevelopment project. The grant value is up to $1 million. Funding through the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this funding will be used to fund energy-efficient appliances and improvements at the Hillside Park, thereby reducing operational energy and utility costs for future residents. Resiliency hubs are physical spaces specifically designed to support a community responding and to recovering from an emergency.
Interesting. Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 4, approval to apply for a multifamily incentive package from the Energy Trust of Oregon to promote sustainable building systems at the Hillside Park redevelopment project. The grant value is up to $100,000. Funding through State of Oregon funding. Please explain where. No county general funds are involved.
Okay, this grant, which provides financial cash incentives for energy-efficient equipment installation and photovoltaic solar arrays, solar panels. Multifamily buildings will be combined with other funding sources already committed to reducing operational energy and utility costs, thereby alleviating future residents' burden. And you had a question about
State funding, where is it coming from in the state? Do you know?
Do you know where the state funding is coming from?
Energy Trust of Oregon.
Yeehaw.
Okay, we'll correct the staff report.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Fine. Thank you. Item 5, approval of a resolution to appoint Christopher Ayosa as the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved.
Yes, Commissioners, those of you who were at the employee appreciation. Remember, Tony Carter is retiring soon, in a week or two. So she was acknowledged there. But anyway, Tony Carter is the current executive director of the Housing Authority, and she's going to be retiring May 2nd. So per the 2020, the board must appoint a successor by law. So to ensure operations of continuity, we request that Christopher Ayosa be appointed Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Clackamas County effective May 3rd, 2024.
Well, Tony, we're going to be sad to see you go. I mean, you have served Clackamas County for years. You've done such a good job in very troubling times. You're dealing with a population that is challenging, to say the least, and we've always appreciated your efforts. I've really appreciated you in connecting with the Board of County Commissioners on this, and you are going to be missed.
Thank
Gary, we need a motion.
No, I do want to clarify, this is a United States Department of Housing and Urban Development requirement that the Housing Board appoint the executive director, but this person doesn't report to you. It's someone on Rod's staff that reports through his chain of command, but you have to appoint the person by HUD requirements. That's why that's
fine.
there.
And I would assume we'd need a motion on this.
Well, no, this will go to this Thursday's business meeting for your action
And
there.
we need a motion then?
It'll be part of the consent agenda then,
Just
yes.
part of consent. A little bit weird to me, but, there's always new paperwork to contend with. Thank you very much on this. Seeing no objections, but have a good retirement.
I
Thank
do have
you
one
so
question. Is Mr. Ayosa here today in the room?
See, there he is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right?
You're hiding in the back row. Well, welcome. Commissioner West.
What you will absolutely be missed. I know I probably work with you, well, I have, less than any of the other commissioners currently on this board, but you were a fantastic asset to this county. We really do appreciate you and your years of service. Mr. Ayosa, you have big shoes to fill, but I trust that you can do it. For those of you that don't know, he's been a fantastic partner with this county for many years, also even with his work with the nonprofit organizations like Do Good and others that have really helped us make headway with the issues around housing, homelessness, addiction services, things like that. I'm very confident that you'll be a great asset moving forward. And once again, thank you for your time with the county.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further comments or questions? Gary, I'm reading this. I'm sorry to be a stickler on this, but I'm reading this order, and where do I see his name on it? Because since I'm signing it.
Rod?
What am I missing, Rod?
The resolution should have his name on it.
The best.
It is in the now therefore it is hereby resolved that the Board of County Commissioners, the Housing Authority of Clackamas County hereby appoints Christopher Ayosa as Executive Director of the Housing Authority. Should be the last paragraph of that board order.
My document doesn't say that, but you know what? We'll get it fixed.
We'll get it fixed, yep.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All righty.
you.
Well, thank you very much. See no objections? Yes, go ahead, Paul.
Tony, just want to also give my congratulations on your retirement and my appreciation for years of service. I know that this board and prior boards have entertained you.
Yes, thank you.
I can only imagine what that's been like for all these years, so.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schrader would like to speak.
Commissioner Schrader.
Tony, I also would really like to thank you for all your hard work you've done for us. We are getting accolades, I think, across this county and actually throughout the region for the housing work that we have done. And I just want to make it clear that really it's to all of you that work in this arena that have really helped the citizens of this county. And it's been a privilege working with you and knowing you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra, are there any comments you would like to make?
Yes, please. I'm going to definitely miss Tony. She helped me get up and running. She would answer silly questions or find somebody that did give me an answer. So good luck, Tony. Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. Well, seeing no further objections, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Leenstra, for joining us today. Chair, would you
You're
please?
welcome.
Would you please reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I will recess as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners.
You'll meet as the Board of County Commissioners for the remainder of today's agenda. Next is request for consent agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. First up, elected officials. Item 1 for the Sheriff's Office actually has already been approved because I can authorize that under my signing authority, so sorry, there was an error to put this on the agenda. Apologies. So that is off. Item 2, this is the District Attorney's Office. Approval of a grant agreement from the Oregon Department of Justice for Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Program Services. Total grant award is $1,146,209 plus projected carryover from fiscal year 2022-2023 of $15,949. Funding is through the state of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. District Attorney John Wentworth and Deputy Title
First
Scott.
Assistant.
First Assistant Scott Healy. Go ahead, please.
Welcome.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Smith and members of the commission. For the record, my name's Scott Healy. I'm the First Assistant District Attorney in Clackamas County. I know that's a mouthful, so don't feel bad that you stumbled there. So I've come before you a number of times for this same reason, every 2 years, frankly. So these are CAMI funds that are pass-through funds that mostly fund our children's center and also the coordinator, the multidisciplinary team coordinator for Clackamas County. I'm also the chair of the multidisciplinary team for child abuse here in Clackamas County, just to refresh everybody's memory. And so that's where most of these funds go. Also, we'll take some of the funds and we do a lot of training around the county for law enforcement and DHS workers and other partners that work in this field of child abuse, sexual abuse, and child neglect. So unless you have any further questions of me, this is more of a routine that we go through every 2 years, and we have for probably close to 30 years.
Yes, great. It does great work. Thank you. DA Wentworth,
I have nothing to add. That covers everything I would say.
an attorney who does not want to talk.
Can you believe it? Stand by. I'm still
Oh,
sitting
you
up
have
here.
more to come, okay. Any comments or questions from commissioners? See no objections. Thank you for doing this good work.
Item 3, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with the Children's Center of Clackamas County for child abuse referral services. Total value is $1,116,000 for 2 years. Funding through the Oregon Department of Justice. No county general funds are involved.
Same, I don't know if this is the same pot of money or what we're discussing.
Okay. Is it the same pot of money from the CAMI funds?
This is just referring to the Oregon Department of Justice, so you tell us.
Well, I believe that it is the same pot of funds. Chair
is.
Smith, and yeah.
Tony confirmed it is, yes.
Yes, it is. So it comes from CAMI. CAMI is a state, well, it's I think an offshoot of the Department of Justice, frankly. So yes, it's the same funds, sorry.
And it does good work,
Does good work.
and it's vital that we have it. Any other further questions or comments? Commissioner West?
Are these the funds that go to help to support the Children's Center over there, here in Oregon City?
Primarily, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they do amazing work. Commissioner Schrader and I just got to do a tour and breakfast with their staff there, and it's very trauma-informed care. The building is beautiful, and, they're really doing tough but very important work, and they have probably one of the better resources in the state here, and it's here in Clackamas County that deal with this really tough issue. So, these funds are going to go where they're needed, and thank you for bringing this before us.
Commissioner West, I will say that they're child abuse centers, and probably, not all 36 counties have them because in the eastern part of the state, they don't have as much money to be able to fund child abuse centers. But there are probably about 20 to 25 child abuse centers in the state of Oregon. CARES is in, Multnomah County, and there are others, Liberty House down in Marion County. But I will tell you that I believe that we have actually the best child abuse center in the state. And there are other good child abuse centers, but you're not wrong. Not just the facility itself, although they're starting to outgrow that facility, so we probably will need to look into that in the future. But they literally are the best child abuse center in the state, bar none. And I've been doing child abuse cases for going on 28 years now, so I know.
Thank you for those words, because I, over and over again, just see evidence where Clackamas County is a pocket of excellence, and so this is just one more instance of that.
Thank you, Gary.
Commissioner Schrader would like to speak.
Yeah, I just have to tell you, I was on the ground years ago. This is the blessing and the curse of having some longevity here. But that was simply a meeting I remember with John Foote, Reed Adamek, Providence got involved. And we started at a very small building right outside of where Providence is in Oregon City now. And it was actually this really little tiny house. And through the years, we built it, and in 2008, really in the middle of a recession, the Children's Center moved ahead to do a big outreach to our business community in order to get the current building funded, and it's just taken off from them. But I'd really like to give a shout out to John Foote, who was one of the original founders of this, one of our DAs prior to you, DA Wentworth, and I think one of your friends and compatriots. But it was largely due to his vision that we moved ahead with this, because we were sending children out of our county to Marion County, and not to one spot, but multiple places. So that whole movement back then, I believe it was about 2005, 2006, kind of transformed how we did things here in Clackamas County. And thank you, Commissioner West, for calling it another pocket of excellence in Clackamas County. I think everybody who was involved in the past and continues to be involved in the future really knows it was one of the best things we did. I'm going to mute because there are barking dogs now.
Yes,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you,
Mark,
Commissioner
I see you
Schrader.
holding your head.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just appreciate the work, and I also want to just, for all those who work there as well and work in that field, knowing, every time I visit that facility, my heart is just heart-wrenching to realize that there are children that go through what they go through. And so to deal with that on a day-to-day basis, I applaud everyone for that and the great work that's being done there. So I remember cutting the ribbon on that facility way back. So it's been great work there, and thanks for your service.
I would be remiss if I didn't say we might be too good. We're going to lose our executive director of the Children's Center. She's going to go work to oversee all child abuse centers in Oregon and help get them to the level that we have ours at. So they look to her as the model, and so it's flattering, it's wonderful, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge in Clackamas County because we're going to lose a really good person in Karen Rush.
Wow, that's something. Okay, well, sounds like a recruitment is coming.
It is.
Good, very good. See no objections to this. Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Item 4, approval of a grant request with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission for Oregon Behavioral Health Deflection Program. Grant value is $475,254.50 for 15 months. Funding through Oregon House Bill 4002. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, DA, and please introduce your colleague.
Thank you. So next to me, I have Senior Deputy District Attorney Bill Stewart. I'm bringing him because he's the real brains behind the operation of what we're about to do. As you know, this has been a huge effort to get to a place where we are recriminalizing drugs in Oregon. And as part of that, the legislature has implemented a deflection program to allow for a public health touch before we enter the criminal justice system on certain cases. And we're going to have the LIPSIC oversee this entire program, but the work is going to be done by folks like Bill Stewart, who is ready to make it work. And so we get, as Clackamas County, we're getting about $950,000 in funding for this coming fiscal year. Half of that will be given to us right away. Our application is due today, actually, for that funding. We're one of the 21 counties in the state that asserted up front that we're willing to take this on and make a deflection work. My commitment is to make it the example of the state, much like our Children's Center. I want to be the best that we have in Oregon. Bill's going to make sure that happens. So we have the opportunity to get half the money now. It'll be retroactive to April 1st. And then once we have the program underway, we submit basically a proposal to the state showing, yes, we're making this work, we're going to have this happen, so that September 1st, when this whole process starts, we're ready to go and we get the second stage of funding. I know what question I'm probably going to get asked, and I'll just say it up front. Is it enough? Probably not. But we have to do this, and I have to be able to show what additional resources we're going to need to get this to the place that we need it to be and want it to be in Clackamas County. When I met with the LIPSIC, we had a conversation. We don't have to have everything in place September 1st. We can implement this in stages, but the commitment from LIPSIC that I heard was, well, which community are we going to tell you don't get an opportunity for this? They don't want to do that. And I completely understand. So what we need to do is stand this up, get it going, and then help the state identify what additional resources we're going to need to make this successful in the years to come. I don't know what that number is yet, but this initial $475,000 is going to help us get that underway, and I can begin doing the math and the assessments of what we're going to need to make this a success in the future.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
ADA Bill Stewart, would you like to make a comment, please?
I'd only say that we're going to try to work with the existing resources we have in the county. We have some phenomenal outreach efforts, and we want to tie these folks that we identify as part of that challenge with that. Folks like LEAD, Love One, Father's Heart, 4D, people like that, we're going to try to work with to make this happen.
Thank you. The impression that I got going through all this that was because we have programs in place already, the programs that you just mentioned, okay, is a reason why we could possibly see some success with this. And John, and you and I have talked about the money on this. You know, legislature is so famous for saying, okay, we're going to fund you, and then they're going to fund you partly, and then they're going to pass something else and make the counties pay more money. And I'm always going to be watching that carefully, not necessarily you, but the new requirements, if there will be any coming down from the legislature saying, well, we gave you all this money. Well, you gave us some money. And to build out an entire system just within 9 months, and then we go back into the legislature next year and expecting this huge, big progress report, I think is untenable. But we're going to do the best we can. I'm fully confident in our staff and everybody out there that it's going to be a good job with what we have available. Commissioner West.
I represent the Board of County Commissioners on LIPSIC. We just had a meeting. You did a really great job summarizing and kind of encapsulating the vibe. Everyone is very concerned about dealing with this pretty big epic crisis and not actually giving the resources necessary to grapple with it. And once again, at the local level, we're stuck working with what we got and to try to make headway and be really creative and innovative. I found the group to be quite collaborative. There wasn't a lot of daylight between like understanding what that need was and the challenges that we're going to face. And I think I can speak for this board that we want to partner with your office as much as we can to be a successful county in this endeavor, as we've made this a major priority for Clackamas County. And but I am really, really concerned that like we have this big task and we've been given a very, it's like it's almost like the ship is flooding. We've been given a very small bucket. And we're gonna pail that water as hard, as fast as we can. But that water's coming in and we all can feel it and see it. And so I guess we're here to partner with you and we'll see what this does. I hope we're going to have the burn representative. I know we have a burn representative now on LIPSIC that's been assigned, so that will be interesting. We're going to try to hold more frequent meetings so that we can try to really, as a team, grapple with this effectively. And so I look forward to that. And I think as we understand that and meet more often, we might have a bigger understanding of what the scope is, and that's still a little fuzzy. But this is a start, and so we appreciate it, and thank you for your presentation.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, as I was following the hearings on Measure 110 and HB 4002, and our discussions here with our staff on maybe we'll say our part, but probably our part, and that is the facilities and the recovery type services that really, as a person, individual goes through your program, that we need to be able to have the ability to serve those people, whatever they need. And we're working on that. But we rightfully understood that it starts with your standing up your program on your end, and we knew this coming. And I know it's not really fair to say this is an unfunded mandate, but it is marginally funded. And to steal some words from Senator Johnson, when I first heard her speak at the state legislature, her said, he's like, okay, you have someone out there out in the water about 25 feet, and you throw them 5 feet of rope. It's not going to reach them, right?
Yeah.
So how we fund the other part is one of the challenges, and I just want to say that we're all working on that, seeing our part of that program, but I'm not sure the public understands what that all looks like, and as we extend this, and also the scale and the capacity. I mean, how many people do we need to be able to serve, for what period of time, how many beds or whatever it may be? We don't know yet, so we're trying to get the best of minds to wrap around how we deal with our end of it. So.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussions, thank you for bringing this presentation forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Still on elected officials, next is the assessor. This is item 5, approval of a resolution approving the submission of the Assessor's County Assessment Funding Assistance Grant application for fiscal year 2024-2025. Total value is approximately $1,350,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the state of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Assessor Rueda, go ahead, please.
All right, thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith, County Commissioners. I'm Bronson Rueda, the Clackamas County Assessor. Thank you for your time today to move this resolution to Thursday's consent agenda for approval. This process is part of A&T's annual application to the Oregon Department of Revenue for the CAFA grant, and CAFA stands for County Assessment Function Funding Assistance. The annual grant helps Oregon counties, including Clackamas County, cover a small portion of cost for the state-mandated function of assessment taxation. Funding for the grant comes from portions of document recording fees and a percentage of the interest collected on delinquent property taxes. These funds are forwarded to the Oregon Department of Revenue, who then redistributes the funds to counties statewide. For fiscal year 2025, the grant is forecasted to provide approximately 12.5% of the revenue to fund the A&T office, or $1.35 million. I respectfully recommend the board approve to move this resolution to Thursday's consent agenda for final approval so the grant application can be submitted to the state by the due date of May 1st. Any questions?
Commissioner Schull.
Good morning, Mr. Rueda. How do you go about recruiting these personnel for appraisal staff and administrative staff?
How do we recruit? How do we hire people?
Yes. This is going to require additional staff, correct?
So no, this isn't about hiring people. This is about reporting the staff and the budget that we have going forward for fiscal year 25, and then requesting a grant that the state gives us if we stay staffed at the level that we're reporting.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So it's free money
Gotcha.
if we stay staffed.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? Seeing no objections.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, County Council, item 1, approval of a real property conveyance agreement with the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. Acquisition costs are approximately $50,000. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Assistant County Counsel Jeff Munns and Captain Malcolm McDonald from the Sheriff's Office. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Chair Smith, Commissioners, this is an agreement we've been working on for quite some time with OLCC. As you know, OLCC is going to be moving the operations to Canby, and as part of that, the Sheriff's Office, Community Corrections, has been operating a residential drug and alcohol treatment facility on the back half of this property for quite some time. Part of it's been located there for decades and decades. The current lease dates to 1992. So, as part of that discussion to continue, and with them moving, we have an agreement before you to partition and transfer the property. So when OLCC sells the property, we will retain the portion that we're using, which is west of Johnson Creek, and the buildings that we own. All we have to pay for is the acquisition costs, which are the surveying, the partition costs, the work with the City of Milwaukee to do so. And then we continue our operations as we have been. And the stabilization center is in this location as well.
Good.
Anything to say?
I'm just looking forward to getting this across the finish line, and I appreciate the board's support and Chair Smith, your support in helping with one obstacle through this process. And it's a great win for Clackamas County, and the property is dear to my heart. It's where I started my career with community corrections on the McBride site. So, yeah, questions about the property or?
No, I appreciate your dedication, Mr. McDonald, to making sure this program goes through. Yeah, that's really good. Any other further questions or comments on this? Yeah, we can't wait to see this go. Seeing no objections, thank you for coming forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Happy Valley and Clackamas County relating to the 172nd Avenue Improvement Project. Total project budget is now $44,871,873, decreased from $53,278,800. Funding is through the City County Transportation System Development Charge Joint District Fund, Cash Acknowledgement Funds, and City of Happy Valley funds. No county general funds are involved. Cheryl Bell, Assistant Director of Transportation and Development. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. So back in March of 2022, the county signed an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Happy Valley for design, permitting, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of street widening and intersection improvements along Southeast 172nd Avenue between Southeast Misty Drive and Southeast Maple Lane. As Gary indicated, the majority of the funding for this project is coming through City of Happy Valley funds, with Clackamas County Joint TSDC district funds also being used for the project. After executing the original IGA at the request of the City of Happy Valley, the project budget is being reduced to align with forecasted funding. So staff are seeking approval of an amendment to the IGA to recognize the reduction to the project scope. With this change in scope, the street improvements will be scaled back. The improvements will be along 172nd Avenue between Southeast Misty Drive and Scouters Mountain Road. It'll be stopping short of the Hemrick Road, 172nd Avenue, and future 190th and 172nd Avenue intersections. As Gary indicated, the county received updated project costs associated with this amendment, and if approved, the project will be reduced from $53.3 million to the $44.9 million.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner West.
Yeah, the project's reduced by $8.4 million. That's a pretty substantial reduction. I'm just, is this due just to increased construction costs? We're seeing such an inflation around the cost of doing these types of projects, or what was kind of the impetus to have such a big reduction?
My understanding on this is that the cost came up higher than expected, and then when the city was looking, since they're the primary funder, they were looking at the revenue projections, just decided to scale back to match with the forecasted revenue that was coming in for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
So my questions are along the lines of clarification, I have more than one question. So the first one, so the only funds we're contributing are our portion of the TSDCs.
That was my understanding, yes.
Okay.
I can find out, though, to make sure.
And the other thing is that this will be a Happy Valley-owned facility. There'll be ownership, they'll be responsible for future maintenance.
My understanding is the road is not being transferred. That's why the county is doing the design and construction on this project.
Okay. And then the balance of those dollars are coming from TSDCs, but the balance is coming from the City Happy Valley?
Yeah, my understanding is City Happy Valley is the primary funding source for this project. And that those joint TSDC dollars, since they need to be spent in that area, are being used for the county's portion. But I can go ahead and follow up with staff to make sure I get you that number.
Yeah, I just would, assume, rightfully so, seems to be rightful that the City of Happy Valley takes over maintenance. They're putting their own money in it, that they're responsible for the maintenance. That's something I think that there are a number of roads that are built there that are wholly within the city, so it seems plausible, and that they take ownership. And this is just one more road that it seems, again, that they're putting that much money in it. Hopefully, we don't have to bear the responsibility on our gas tax dollars, scarce gas dollars.
Any other questions? Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good morning. I realize that southeast Misty Drive and southeast Maple Hill Lane are well north of the track of the existing Highway 212, but is there any integration in planning or consideration in this project with the planning that's going on for the Sunrise Corridor project?
Commissioner Shaw, I'm going to be really honest. I don't know. I can find out for you, though.
Okay.
My understanding is this was done in '22, and I know the Sunrise is currently being scoped and designed. So my gut instinct is probably not, but let me find out for you and I'll get back to you.
I'm always concerned about how one project like this might have some sort of effect on planning for the Sunrise Corridor. I realize that it's 122nd to 172nd, but I can't help but think there's some kind of impact that coordination would be a prudent thing to do. Thank you.
Sure.
Any further discussions? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Technology Services. Item 1, approval of a board order to issue a purchase order for networking equipment for the Replacement County Courthouse through a cooperative contract with CDW Government. Total value is $203,933.50. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Keelan Cleary, Deputy Director of Technology Services. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. As Gary said, my name is Keelan Cleary, Deputy Director for Technology Services. We're here today for the first item today is for approval to purchase Aruba networking component for the county courthouse. We will intend to purchase 21 Aruba network switches, 97 wireless access points, and some other ancillary gear to provide network services to the new courthouse building. These are anticipated costs and were budgeted with general county funds.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval to apply for the State of Oregon Broadband Deployment Program funds for Clackamas Broadband Exchange expansion. Anticipated grant value not to exceed $5 million. Funding through the Oregon Broadband Office. No county general funds are involved.
Good morning. We're seeking permission to apply for a state grant with the Oregon Broadband Office. This grant would be for about $5 million. If we were successful in getting this grant, CBX would provide 25% match, so up to $1.25 million. We would do this primarily with in-kind contributions, so our own staff time and or other costs that go with poll fees or other things that would make up that $1.25 million over the anticipated lifetime of the project.
Great. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes. Is this going to help you provide funds to push out broadband to areas of the county that are underserved at this time?
Correct. This would be to provide additional service to either unserved or underserved communities. And these would be shovel-ready projects. Our next 2 shovel-ready projects are in the Marmot Road area in South Kiwanis Camp. Those projects would serve up to about 900 homes.
Okay, so your list of priorities for pushing out broadband, the board hasn't seen what projects this $5 million would buy yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when will we see that?
Well, this specific grant requires that we do submit shovel-ready projects. Those are the next 2 that we have on the list are the Marmot Road, so we've already done.
I see. Okay, good. Okay, so if somebody asked me, Marmot Road is up next.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions?
We just hope we get the grant.
Yes.
Right. Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you. Keelan, would you please email the board that list of projects that you did approve these projects prior,
did.
Commissioners, when you did the ARPA discussion? Can you just email the board that?
It was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next, tourism, item 1, approval to respond to a request for proposals from Travel Oregon for the Regional Cooperative Tourism Program and Oregon Wine Country License Plate Tourism Promotion Program. Anticipated contract value is $3,200,000 for 8 years. Funding is through state transient lodging tax revenues. No county general funds are involved. Samara Phelps, Executive Director of Tourism. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, today I'm in front of you requesting that tourism respond to the Travel Oregon current RFP process to serve as the regional destination management organization for the Mount Hood and Gorge region, which encompasses our mountain communities, Wasco County, portions of Multnomah County and all of Hood River County. So it's a different geography than Clackamas County and the work that you usually see us do. The work is destination management work. So it is visitor information, it's stakeholder engagement, tourism promotion, and public relations work. And if selected, we could serve in this role for up to 8 years. Contracts would be issued annually. So the current program is about $400,000 a year, and that $3.2 million comes from and anticipated serving it for 8 years. We've been serving in this role for the last 20 years, as long as the program has existed, and it's been proven to be an effective way for Clackamas County Tourism to provide leadership and effectively ensure that the state TLT is benefiting our business operators and communities throughout that entire region. And so after evaluating this opportunity and conversations with our local stakeholders, we see that this continues to align very strongly with the tourism's existing program and strengths, and it also meets the community's interests. So our recommendation is for the BCC to approve us responding to this request for proposals, and hopefully we will be awarded so we can continue to serve in this capacity in the future. And happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good morning, Samara. Are other tourism agencies like yours in this region, like Hood River, Wasco County, competing with you on this?
No, we worked with the local DMOs, and we had several discussions about this work and what the future of it looks like, and it was determined that Clackamas County was the best home for this work ongoing.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next, Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of a revenue grant agreement from the Oregon Department of Transportation for operations of the Mount Hood Express. Agreement value is $300,000 for 2 years. Funding is through federal pass-through funds from the Oregon Department of Transportation. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Go ahead, please.
Good morning again, Commissioners. This agreement would provide funds for maintenance of service and addressing needs like operating expenses to maintain public transportation, such as fuel, salaries, personal protective equipment, and cleaning supplies for the Mount Hood Express.
Any questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval of a revenue service agreement with Ride Connection for operations of transportation reaching people. Agreement value is $211,717 for 2 years. Funding is through TriMet General Fund. No county general fund is involved.
Through this agreement, Clackamas residents with disabilities or over 65 can access transportation services through adult, senior community centers or the Social Services Transportation Reaching People program, with rides provided by volunteer drivers for medical and personal business purposes.
Questions or comments?
I got a question here.
Mr. Scholl.
Mr. Cook, this applies only to residents of Estacada, Gladstone, Lake Oswego, Milwaukee, and Oregon City? What about other areas of the county? Will it provide those people with a similar service?
It provides rides within the TriMet service district.
Okay.
And so that's what this is.
I see. Okay, good.
Seeing no objections, thank you.
Item 3, approval of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for Choice Model Services. Agreement value is $1,343,063.50 for 18 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, Choice Model Services aim to enhance facility-based mental health treatment, coordination, and accountability, supporting adults with serious and persistent mental illness in a minimally restrictive environment. This is a renewal of a revenue agreement. The Behavioral Health Division facilitates integrated services, supports and coordinates exceptional needs care, and serves as a liaison and technical support for local residential service providers in collaboration with the Oregon Health Authority.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 4, approval of an amendment extending the duration and funding of a contract with Durgish LLC, doing business as Econo Lodge Southeast, for on-call hotel rooms for temporary housing and shelter. Amendment value is $1,085,500 for 1 year. Total contract value increased to $2,106,000 for 2 years. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, the original agreement offered up to 27 on-call hotel rooms for temporary housing, assisting vulnerable county residents in obtaining permanent housing and providing emergency shelter during severe weather events. Amendment number 1 updates the program language and extends the time and funding for 27 on-call hotel rooms while partner agencies assist in permanent housing and emergency shelter during severe weather events.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 5, approval of a public improvement contract with ASA Construction for the Clackamas Village project. Total contract value is $3,211,505.75 for 10 months. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Service Measure funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yeah, just as a reminder, on 12/13/23, the board approved the funding plan for the Clackamas Village. That was $3 million for capital, $1.5 million annually ongoing for operations. It approved HCS to proceed with the construction solicitation based on the architectural designs also provided in the board materials at that time. The Clackamas Village plans to offer recovery-oriented emergency transitional housing to homeless individuals. Based on an architectural design, the board approved HCS's solicitation for construction services. The 13 modular structures will include kitchen, office, bathroom, and sleeping modules with an on-site ramps and decks. After the completion of Clackamas Village, All Good Northwest will manage the site and coordinate recovery-oriented housing stability services for the residents. The contract for these services will be submitted to the board for approval once the terms are finalized.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just want to, the last item here, and also an important one, just share my appreciation for how long it's taken to get, as I called it way back, shelter number 2 up, right? And I know we've been working on this for a long time, and recently, the last year or so, to get it this far along, land use challenges, funding, design, all that. I just appreciate that we've got at least a name for it now, Clackamas Village, but we'll see if that sticks and stays. But I also want to acknowledge that today, and all the things we talked about, we hit on 5 of the 7 major projects that are recovery related or supportive housing services, or those are houseless, and that is the 23-hour stabilization center came up today. That's part of it. This 30-person shelter, the Clackamas Village being one of them today. The deflection program related again to the recovery, and this is related to recovery. And the recoveries, well, we don't have the recovery center per se, but the transitional housing aspect, and one of those is the Econo Lodge Hotel, another model. So I know you're doing a lot. We stood up a lot. We talked about that at the Oregon City Business Alliance, but I just want to applaud your department, Rod, and all the work you're all done for all the things that we're doing. And I think we've touched all aspects right now with something going on that we're standing up. And I hope to see our success rates in this and see if we need more of what we're building currently, or if this is enough. We don't know yet, but we'll find out.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? Seeing no objections. Thanks, Rod.
Thank you.
Thank you. All of these items will be on this Thursday's business meeting agenda for your final approval. Next, Replacement County Courthouse Construction Quarterly Update. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, will present, and John Kinderchuk, Design Build Manager for Clackamas Progress Partners.
Welcome.
Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. This is our quarterly update. If you look out the back window, you see there's a lot of brick going up. There's also a lot going on the inside. And John is here today to talk about it and to share some slides with you. John?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I don't know if you noticed, but my colleague, Carl Schaefer, is away today, so he sends his regards. I'll be stepping in for him and giving you an update. So we are 20 months into a 36-month project. To date, we've covered all of the major milestones as it pertains to design. We have also got to the point where we're approaching our,
Are we doing something wrong?
this little remote.
This one, okay.
All right, reset.
It's all right, go ahead.
The building will be waterproof come June of 2024. Occupancy readiness is still slated for May 1st, 2025, and final completion August 29th of 2025. So, current construction updates. We are in the throes of masonry, exterior panel installs, roofing activities, rooftop mechanical activities, rooftop screen wall, elevators 1 to 4, 7 or 8 are now underway, electrical and mechanical room build-outs, interior rough-ins, and Highfield Court tie-in on the west side of the building, as well as we just kicked off the southeast parking lot, so you will have seen the fence move slightly as we start working towards that part of the project. I'm going to share some photos of the project and give you an overview of what we're looking at. So this is a northeast perspective of the entrance vestibule canopy. The vapor barrier membrane in blue that engulfs the south side of the building will now start to receive insulation and brick as we go around the south side of the building. Windows and frames and glazing are in place throughout the building. We're replacing a couple broken glasses that we found, but other than that, we're almost 100% complete. The rooftop TPO membrane is in place now, so you're now seeing a finished product on the roof, which preps us for the turnover of the building being watertight come the summer. And rooftop mechanical assemblies and structural steel to accommodate our photovoltaic array, soon to be installed. This is our northeast perspective. What you see here is a picture on the left-hand side of our exterior Sallyport entranceway and staging areas. You can also see brick facade going up between the two judges' chambers on the west side. This southeast perspective provides our viewers and listeners with the opportunity to take a look at all the brick that we have put on the north side of the building, which is wrapping around to the west clockwise. And a southeast perspective, which gives you some oversight on the front vestibule and what we're doing at the front of the building that's facing the other buildings in the campus. Here's a photo of our Highfield Court tie-in, where we're doing some of our water drainage connection and prepping for a sidewalk. This is down in the Sallyport, looking towards the new windows as we start to prep the side of the building to establish brickwork. This is an interior shot of the lobby, looking up towards the mezzanine as we prep for not only to put the stair in, but all the glass hand railing and the soffitting. Here's a typical staircase for public access going up into the courtrooms and back down if you're not going to be taking the elevators. This is an interior shot of our basement secure area, which we've nicknamed the Green Mile after that 1999 film starring Tom Hanks. Here's a shot of our basement fire suppression system room and our water pump room, so prepping out all the mechanical requirements for the building. Here's an interior shot of the Sallyport with all of our exterior finish, including our ceiling insulation. And this is one of 8 typical elevator shafts that we're prepping out to receive the elevator cars and starting that process. So what's next is exterior brick continues, elevator installs continue, our site finishes are starting, and we'll really start in earnest once we've closed up the building in the summertime, once we're environmentally sound and we can control heat and humidity and cooling. The building waterproof, summer milestone that I've spoken to, and interior finish starts. Any other questions?
Thank you for that, John. Nancy Bush, do you have anything to add at this time?
Yeah, just a couple things. I think the crane is coming down in June, and we will have a ceremony for that, somewhat, from what I understand. And also, I just wanted to let you know that we have Judge Steele with us here today as well. I forgot to announce that earlier.
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge Judge Kathy Steele, who's been such a proponent on this, helping us along the way, helping us secure funding, and doing all of the wonderful things to make this happen. I see a couple questions. Gary?
Commissioner Schrader has her hand raised.
Yes, folks, and I'm actually talking now because evidently the dogs have gone to sleep, so that's a good thing. In any case, one of the things I wanted to mention, there still is a narrative out there about how this is being funded and how it is affecting our budget. I do not agree with that narrative. I'm wondering, Gary, if you could update how this all works with the P3 model and how we are managing to move forward with this project. Because I think the public needs to know the actually true narrative about how we're managing this.
Yes, Commissioner, there is a false narrative going out on the campaign trail, and I get it, that happens during campaigns, but let me be clear. The county is funding this through a P3 private-public partnership where the contractor, which John is representing, they're paying for all these costs up front, and then next year, May 2025, the county will start to pay for the courthouse over 30 years in cash. There's no debt being taken for this courthouse. It's being paid in cash by the direction of the board. You're not raising the fees or taxes of members of Clackamas County. You're funding it internally from property taxes that the residents already pay. We're taking a $15 million payment for 30 years that we've reduced the general fund programs by $15 million, and frankly, it didn't cut anything. There were 5 staff reductions across the entire organization, and 2 programs were entirely eliminated for a total cost of $300,000. Everything else, funding was found from other funding sources or was redistributed through the organization. That's how you're paying for this milestone payment, which is a big one coming up in May 2025 of approximately $130 million, is going to be funded from the half of the cost that the state of Oregon is providing us. So that's where we're saving the money. The state of Oregon is going to pay for that milestone payment, and then the $15 million in reductions, which we made for this current year, is starting to build up that reserve so that we can make the payment every year ongoing. That's a very quick answer to your question. Happy to give more details to anyone who asks later. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Yes, Gary, I do have one more follow-up with this, and that is that we have a building that is, I think it's our, it's not our development services, it's the building we're in, where that bond is going to be finished in, what year is it, 2028 or 2029? So that is an additional, going to be something that is off our books that will help balance things. Is that correct?
Yes, so the debt service, the county did go into debt for the 2 buildings, other buildings here on the Red Soils campus, the Public Services Building, which we're in today, and the Development Services Building across the way. Those debts for both those buildings will end in the next, I think, 5 years. So that will give up more capacity too for the organization.
Okay, and I just want to clarify that because also that the P3 model is a model that has been used throughout the United States, and I believe at least 3 courthouses have been funded using this particular model. I just wanted to make sure that the public realizes that we have a balanced budget and we are continuing to do excellent service for our constituents in this county, and that I think supporting this courthouse was an essential piece of what we needed to do for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, I've heard many comments about the courthouse and its effect on the budget, but people need to remember that we're probably in excess of 50% completed today.
Correct.
And although it's more expensive than we thought it would be a couple years ago before we started, $312 million every year it goes by, that price actually looks better. A recent estimate for a remodel of one of the Portland high schools came in at, I think, around $360 million for the remodel. And then there's a report here last week that it has gone up to closer to $420 million. So that's just an example of the cost of construction on these civic projects out there. And we had to do a little bit of looking at the budget to make it all work for the next 30 years. But every year that goes by, it's going to become a little bit easier. Just like when you are young and you buy your first home, that mortgage looks so difficult. But as the years go by, it gets a little bit easier. And the bottom line here is we did this out of necessity to make sure that starting next year and hopefully, God willing, for the next 100 years, that courthouse will function at a high rate of efficiency to make sure that Clackamas County's processing of legal issues is unparalleled in the state. So thank you, Mr. Kinderchuk, for your work, and I look forward to seeing your next, what is it, when the crane comes down, make sure you got plenty of donuts.
You bet. You'll have an invitation.
Yes, and it is the constitutional duty of all counties to provide courthouses. It's one of the duties prescribed to us under the Oregon Revised Statutes. And I'm thankful we're able to do this. I understand, too, that other P3 projects are popping up in the state. We were the first to do it, and maybe some others are coming online as well. So thank you for that. Any other comments from commissioners on this? Thank you, John and Nancy, for coming forward and giving us our quarterly update.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, staying on the courthouse topic, Nancy Bush will discuss with you the current courthouse on Main Street in Oregon City. What will happen to that once it is empty? So Nancy, there's a memo in the packet. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I'm just calling it the Main Street Courthouse because we don't like calling it the old courthouse. It is old, but it's not the old courthouse yet. So there's a couple things we want to talk about today. First is I want to just make it really clear what happens to that courthouse is the decision of this board. We are looking at putting together a small team of with Chair Smith and Denise McGriff, who's the mayor of Oregon City, and 6 other members to talk about what might be happening to the courthouse in the future, to get some feedback from the community. So that's what we're looking forward to doing. There's a lot of thoughts out there. There's a lot of ideas out there. We want to take a look at those so we can bring some things to the board so you can make a final decision on what happens with the Main Street Courthouse.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I'm sure all commissioners have been getting some interest from community members. Gee, what are you going to do with the old courthouse? And I've been saying we haven't made a decision yet. And the purpose of bringing this forward now is, commissioners, I would like to have a policy session where we can discuss the future needs and who would be involved in discussion on this. And there's just, a lot of interest. I think we can get to a good place. I did not want to represent to Oregon City on my own. Mayor McGriff wants to have a meeting. Sure, I'll sit down, and maybe at our next policy session, we can discuss that and figure out how that looks like, what that looks like, who wants to be involved as we go forward in making the decision. I think we're all in agreement. We would like to support, the business communities. We'd like to make this a prosperous venture, get some return on investment, get it back on the tax rolls, and really improve Oregon City, generally speaking. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to schedule a policy session on that. I would, I'll try to do my best to find out between now and then what if indeed the position of the Oregon City Council Commission is to see it in private hands ultimately, and if so, that lines up with our goal. And it just seems that, one idea that I've been thinking about since last week's discussion in Oregon City at the Business Alliance has been perhaps on the lines of why doesn't our development agency and their development agency staff or economic development people get together and as professionals and talk about some machinations of what that could look like, right? And what processes would go along with that. So I want to remain as open-minded and as flexible as possible and certainly recognize that this has had a huge impact to downtown Oregon City, and there's pluses and minuses of the courthouse being moved, but totally recognize this is a big deal for the city of Oregon City, so we want to make sure we remain partners on this, and I think that might be one way to see that to an end. But look forward to the policy session.
Yep, good idea. Gary?
Commissioner Schrader has her hand raised.
Yeah, I want to thank you for bringing this forward, Chair and colleagues. I've been, as you know, visiting a lot of the chambers recently as they move from a business recovery center to, to really actually kind of maintaining as becoming business resource centers. And the courthouse does keep popping up. And I will tell you that the Oregon City Chamber is very, very interested in what's going to happen. They want to maintain the vitality of their downtown core. And again, I've been telling them, as you have said, Chair, that we need to have a policy session about this. But they want to make sure they get things started soon enough so that when the transition happens, that things are maintained downtown with what they need to have happen for their local small businesses. So that's what I've been hearing as I've been going around the county. And I like Commissioner Savis's idea of actually maybe having our development agencies get together and see what could happen, but that is for a policy session. So thank you for scheduling that.
Oh, sure. Commissioner Scholl, I believe you're next.
Okay, thank you. Another thing we cannot forget is that currently the county has a significant expense not only in maintaining our old courthouse, which we will be relieved of as next May, but we also have a significant expense in leasing buildings for our district attorney, which we'll also be relieved of. And so in this policy session, it'd be nice to see just exactly how much we will be saving as we move into our new courthouse and say adios to the facilities that we're running downtown. So, thank you. Thank you.
That's something we can add. Thank you for that.
And one other thing too is I look forward to working with the city of Oregon City on how the new life of the old courthouse might enhance the downtown, but I'm also concerned about proceeds from the sale of the old courthouse to maybe go towards our debt on the new one. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner West.
That's a lot to consider. And I had some of the same thoughts as you, Commissioner Scholl. At the end of the day, I hope that we prioritize the needs of Clackamas County. There's a lot of needs moving forward. Commissioner Scholl just mentioned a couple of them that we must consider, and making sure we're doing the most prudent and fiscally responsible fiduciary responsibility that we have for Clackamas County as we deal with that asset. And it's really heartening to hear that there is a lot of interest in that building. It's a prime location, has some historical value, and somebody that has a lot of creativity and some resources might be able to make, as Commissioner Scholl said, a second life out of that building. And so that's going to be exciting to see, as we want to see that area stay vibrant. We all share that concern here in Clackamas County and that goal. But I think first and foremost is the priorities of Clackamas County should be the number one thing.
Thank you. And as we move forward on this, I think it's important to understand what the procedure is to do an assessment on the old building, to know exactly what we're looking at and what type of repairs. That won't be able to happen, I'm assuming, until everyone has moved out. We can't bring in a construction or engineering crew in the midst of a court trial or jury selections and those type of essential court operations. I also think the needs to enhance the Tumwater Village, huge investment being done on the end of Main Street. We also have the Willamette Falls Locks across the river, of which I serve on the state-appointed commission to get that open. And to reach out, let's reach out to the Oregon City Downtown Business Association. They have thoughts, and they, I'm sure, want to have something in this. And also the city government, as another commissioner, of course, we will do. But Gary, we're going to develop a policy session discussion on this and then move forward on how we want to proceed on this. I think it's probably the first one, the first initial meeting. Certainly won't be our last as we go through this, and we'll decide how our discussion panel looks like, at least.
Yes, will do.
Thank you very much on that. Any further comments, commissioners? Thank you very much, Nancy, for
Thank
coming
you.
forward.
Thank you. Next, board order for limited delegation to hear and decide a noise variance request. Last week, Commissioners, April 16th, 2024, you made a motion and you approved delegating to me one-time authority to hear appeal of any hear an appeal of a noise variance request, which there is one that currently exists under Chapter 6.05 of the County Code. County Council recommends an actual board order to document that decision. Since you already voted to approve it, there's a copy of the board order in your packet, just seeking your head nod that Chair Smith can sign it. I don't think you have to vote again because you already did, but to memorialize the decision, may Chair Smith sign the document that was in your packet, please. Just head nods, I'm seeing head nods.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Thank you. So we'll just have you sign that and to memorialize the decision.
All right.
Thank you. Next, the County Planning Commission has some vacancies, and in the past, 2 commissioners have interviewed those candidates before it comes to the board for a final decision. There are 3 current openings on the County Planning Commission due to term expirations, and 1 person resigned. 7 candidates have applied for those 3 openings. So I'm asking today which 2 commissioners would like to interview these candidates before it comes to you for
When
a
do you
final.
plan on doing this, Gary?
Sometime in later May or early June.
I could be, possibly do that. If I can't, I would like somebody as a backup.
I would be happy to volunteer.
Mr. Scholl, is there anybody, and myself, Paul? Okay, Paul,
I'm good. That's plenty. There's 3 of us there.
yeah, okay.
So we asked for not more than 2 so that you can conduct this without a public meeting.
Oh.
So would Chair Smith and Commissioner Shull, would that be all right?
That'd be fine.
Commissioner Savas, would that be okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
And if I can't make it, depending on Paul,
Yep.
we'll
Okay.
bring you in. Thank you very much.
Got it, understood. Thank you. Next, board business meeting agenda for this Thursday, April 25th, 2024. You have a public hearing, which is to hear community input on the Child Care Scholarship Program as required by the Federal Community Development Block Grant Emergency Fund, where these funds are coming from. So you'll just hear if there's any public input before you finalize that program. You'll have all the consent agenda items from today that you discussed and your normal course of business. If you have any questions on any of these items, please let me know prior to Thursday, and staff and I are happy to answer it for you. Next, County Council appointment. Chair Smith, I'll let you lead this, please.
Well, thank you. I guess this is what we do, commissioners here. We have 2 employees at Clackamas County who report directly to the Board of County Commissioners. One is our administrator, Gary Schmidt. The other is our esteemed head county counsel, Stephen Magcor, who has decided to retire and go home to his lovely farm on the river. Gee, who wouldn't want to do that? Mr. Magcor, we will miss you dearly. We have enjoyed your association, your good counsel, and your friendship as well. Thank you for serving. After 13 years of service, you will be leading us. We've gone through an extensive recruitment process over the last 5 months, including a series of interview panels, one-on-one sessions, and deliberations. We are pleased to have such a strong applicant pool. The board has decided to put forward Jane Beto as the next county counsel. Jane has a lot of local government experience, most recently serving as counsel in Marion County. I would be pleased to accept a motion to accept Jane Beto as the next county counsel for Clackamas County.
So moved.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved that we accept Jane Beto as the next county counsel to Clackamas County. Commissioner Shull has seconded the motion. Do we have further discussion on this appointment? Commissioner Shull.
I just would like to say thank you to everyone who came forward to apply for this position. We had the privilege to consider many very highly qualified, outstanding people for this job, and I thank you all for your time and your willingness to serve this county.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I too just want to recognize, as the chair mentioned, all 5 candidates were stellar, and all capable of serving the role, but I just wanted to thank them and acknowledge that it was not easy. It was not easy. Again, just applaud everyone and thank everyone for applying to being a candidate, and welcome Jane Vetto as our new county council.
Yes, and I want to thank county staff. This was really a Herculean effort when you consider all the parties involved and input taken, and we took this, the Board of County Commissioners took this quite seriously. There were long deliberations. I know I listened to a lot of other county employees' input on this. I received written input as well. And just dealing with, we hired a company, an outside contractor to help us through the process, and that keeps other county employees out of the mix, and it offers us, a very impartial lens to make the decision. We were able to do that. I want to thank Jared for your help on this. You were just stellar in helping us maneuver through all of the areas, because we don't hire that often. See, gee, you need to be legal here, or you need to be legal there, and thank you for your recommendations on that. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. I just want to mention that when I came on, I was sworn in, I met Mr. Madcore as virtually appointed at that particular time, but I was the only commissioner because I was new onboarding that hadn't met him yet. So, Stephen, I've served his entire tenure here. I've worked with him, so I just want to say thank you for your service. We've had a lot of lively moments, a lot of good times, a lot of tough times, but congratulations on your retirement. This is two key employees today are recognizing their retirements, and so just thank you for your public service.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any other further comments from commissioners? Tony, would you please take the poll?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Commissioner Zavas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Our new county council, I believe, will start June 3rd.
Correct.
And Mr. Madcore will be leaving
Some point at the end of May, to be determined.
at the end of May. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate the effort that went into this, and Stephen, you as well. Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Final item today is Commissioner Communications.
All righty. Commissioner West, you're up first.
I'm going to save mine for later in the week.
Okay, Commissioner Scholl?
Thank you. Good morning. One thought as we looked at the briefing this morning on the Cascade Village. That's a $3.2 million project. Next door, we currently have our Veterans House in the very successful Veterans Village. But the bug I want to put in your ear this morning is when the new Cascade Village is done, I personally think it would be a very nice home for the new Veterans Village, and we reconfigure our current facility for transitional housing. Just a thought. The other thing I want to share with you this morning has to do with the Metro Solid Disposal tip fees for 24-25. In the way of background, the Metro Solid Waste Disposal fee, known as a tip fee, is set annually by Metro and is part of their budget process, and it's charged to our solid waste franchise collectors when they unload garbage and recycling at the Metro transfer stations. It consists of about 22% of the cost to provide garbage recycling in the county. So, in the way of background, in 2022, for the 22-23 year, Metro Council passed a tip fee of 7.1%. Now, last year, and there was an agreement that it would be between 7.1% and 7.9% increase each year through 2027. But last year, Metro came to us and asked us for support to raise the fee over that, and we agreed in the county to agree to a 8.3% increase, but then shortly after that, the Metro Council raised it to 11%. And so now this year, for 2024-25, the Metro staff has made a recommendation to Metro Council for a couple options. One is a full cost scenario of 11.9%, and the other one is a fee predictability scenario of 8% ceiling. So this year, Metro has not coordinated with us, nor with MPAC. So, and apparently they have not taken into consideration information or a recommendation from their own newly appointed Waste Fee Policy Task Force. And my concern is that because Metro and this tip fee issue affects the tri-counties and essentially everybody in our county who pays a bill to have their refuse and recycling picked up, that this needs to be vetted through the county, through the Board of Commissioners, and also through our own Department of Transportation and Development, who is responsible for our sustainability and solid waste program in the county. And I'm a bit concerned that the 11.9% recommendation from the Metro staff, when it gets to the Metro Council on the 25th of this week for a decision, could exceed 11.9% because they've exceeded the recommendations in the past. And so but going back to 2022, when Metro worked with the counties and we agreed that the 7.1% to 7.9% a year would be the target. And that would, by 2027, increase costs for tipping fees by 67%. Now, if we go over that 7.9 or that 7% range in there, we could be looking at a significant increase to our ratepayers come 2027, which I'm very concerned about. So staff has very kindly provided me some talking points for the Metro MPAC meeting tomorrow night, which I'll bring this up. Oh, by the way, going back to February, staff talked to me about encouraging Metro to ensure that when they look at their tipping fee increases, they coordinate through the counties that are involved. And we never heard back on my recommendation for them to do that. So the question now, today, on the 23rd of April, and Metro Council is going to look at this in 2 days. I'm wondering exactly what we should do to compel Metro to hold off on that decision until such time that we have a chance to make a recommendation, have input on this process. Also, all the members of MPAC should also have the ability to weigh in on this process. So
I like where you're going on this, Commissioner Scholl. I have been very concerned about, I think Metro's just a runaway freight train when it comes to taxes and fees, and it's just not the recycling and garbage collection. So basically what you're saying is over a 20% increase in the last 2 years on these tipping fees from what was proposed this year and what was actually passed last year.
Well, yeah, exactly. It'd be about 23.8%. And so, and it should have been just slightly under 16%.
Well, even 16's high.
Well, it is. It is. So anyway, tomorrow night, at the MPAC meeting, staff has been very kind to give me some comment suggestions for tomorrow night, and I will say to them what I've said today, but I also recommend that maybe the board look at some communication to Metro Council saying, we're very concerned about this, and we believe that it's important for MPAC and for counties that are affected by this Metro decision to weigh in. And the other thing, too, is, to some people might say, well, this would increase a ratepayer's garbage bill by X dollars, but the thing to think about, consider, is those same ratepayers are paying a 30% increase on power, electrical power, on natural gas, inflation, groceries, every little thing that costs our constituents more money makes it more difficult for them to make ends meet. And so I'm very concerned about this. And I would add.
So I heard a couple things, Commissioner Scholl. You want this board to take some type of action before they, or a letter?
Well, even if it's just maybe a phone call from the chair to the Metro chair, expressing our concerns about this.
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah,
of
thank you,
course.
thank you.
Want to hear from other commissioners, too. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I'm going to show my age again, 20-something years of public service, and had to raise rates at the Water District a long time ago, my first elected position. And, you know, there are factors. No one ever wants to raise rates or taxes, fees, or fines, right, if you don't have to. And sometimes that, you know, to do it responsibly, you know, you have to look within, see where you can make efficiency cuts, and making sure you're doing everything you can on behalf of your ratepayers or your constituents. It's never easy for any elected official to raise the rates, but we went through a heck of a public process to raise the rates at the Water District. And I said that's one way of getting, I remember that back in the day, it was one way of getting good public involvement, people to show up at your meeting, is to raise the rates, right, and put an announcement. And it filled the room in the building when we did that. But all to say that in this high inflationary period that we live in, and maybe inflation does level off, but I want to just say that some people think that if inflation levels off, it's percentages, the percentage leveled off, but the price isn't really going down. The prices are up there. Natural gas, electricity, price a gallon of diesel or gasoline, my cell phone bill, you name it, groceries, everywhere you look, the rates are going up. And of course, anyone doing business, including Metro, is probably absorbing some of that as well. They're experiencing labor cost increases and electricity costs and all that. However, it is a responsibility of an agency to make the case, have the process, make the case, and for that, so people like ourselves and our constituents understand how they got there. And so that's, I don't want to be critical of a responsible need to raise the rates. I'm not. I can see that, but I don't know what that responsible level is, and I certainly don't, does not appear as though the process has been there to make the case for it. I think that's the biggest issue here today for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Commissioner West?
Yeah, even my entire elected service, even as a city councilor in Wilsonville, we dealt with these type of rate issues. And we've seen really everything get more expensive, and that really hurts. It's really a tax on working families and poor people the most, who can't absorb those costs. It's really insidious, and people really feel it every single month. A lot of people are out of touch with what somebody has to go through to make those ends meet, but people have to make real sacrifices. It's been my experience. I'm not necessarily saying it's the same thing here, is there tends to be a lot of brilliant ideas from government workers and all these fancy different type of additional services we must be giving or offering to deal with trash, garbage, and recycling. And I mean, all kinds of, you'd be surprised about all kinds of things that can be done to increase your trash costs, from fluorescent lights to programming to this programming and that programming, or styrofoam or this or that. and I'm not saying those things aren't necessarily good, but when we are starting to cause localized inflation on top of the inflation we're seeing nationally, we need to look at those programs and see if it's worth the additional cost and can we afford them. We all have our checkbooks out during the month and we're trying to pay those bills. And I think maybe Metro needs to have a family checkbook moment around the kitchen table and understand what people are feeling. And maybe we need to look at services that are nice to have but not necessary to have. And I would be interested in understanding what's going on there. It would help me have confidence in the process also. And I hope that we can advocate that we have some local control and voice in this where necessary. I think that is a prudent thing to do and shows good leadership.
Yes, so I can certainly call Metro and express our concern about lack of process and transparency.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and in light of, I think, in a way, Commissioner Scholl touched on it, is that you had a process for the last round, and now there's a lack of process. And that lack of consistency is probably a glaring one in this matter, so.
I can make the call this afternoon. If staff would like to lend an ear to me.
Chair, one more comment.
Sure.
The other thing that we need to be aware of is that in cities across the United States, when the rate on recycle and garbage pickup gets to be to a point where constituents feel it's too expensive, then what you see is garbage bags piled up on the sidewalk.
Yep.
This happens so many times across the nation in some of our bigger cities, which costs just a huge problem. And so, again, it's perception of the ratepayer as to the cost on that bill that they get every couple months. And when it gets to a point where they no longer feel it's worth it, then we have a big problem on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I would agree totally on that. Thank you, Commissioner Scholl.
Thank you.
Next up, Commissioner Savas.
I, too, will hold my comments towards Thursday. It's been a long morning.
Commissioner Schrader.
I will do the same thing. I do have some interesting things to share, particularly about childcare, but I will wait until next Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just say, Tower Board of County Commissioners had a luncheon at the Oregon City Business Association where we gave briefing on the state of the business in Clackamas County. It was widely attended. We had very good questions from the audience, and I think we're able to communicate what we're doing here at the county. I want to thank all the commissioners for your very good contributions to that. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.